I walk into the courtroom, and the first thing I smell isn't justice, it's expensive French perfume and a level of entitlement that makes my skin crawl. I've been sitting on this bench for decades. I've seen it all. I've seen the bottom feeders, the scammers, and the poor souls who are just too dim-witted to realize they're being taken for a ride. But there's a specific kind of person that gets under my skin faster than a splinter in a thumb. The wealthy who think their bank account balance is an IQ score. I sit down, adjust my lace collar, and look at the papers in front of me. Bard hands me the file with that look on his face, the one that says, "Judge, you're going to love this one." I don't love it. I never love it. I just want the truth, and I want it fast. On the left, we have Mr. Elias Thorne. He's a landscape architect. He looks tired. He's wearing a suit that's seen better days, but it's clean, and he's standing up straight. He's suing for $5,000, the maximum jurisdiction of this court, for unpaid labor and materials. On the right, we have Mrs. Victoria Sterling. She's draped in enough jewelry to sink a small yacht. Her hair is coiffed to within an inch of its life, and she's looking at Mr. Thorne like he's something she accidentally stepped on in the garden. Behind her stands a man in a $4,000 suit, who I assume is her lawyer, though why you'd bring a high-priced attorney to a small claims court is beyond me unless you're planning on putting on a show. And I don't like shows. I'm the only one who gets to perform in this room. Mr. Thorne, I start not even looking at the woman yet. You say you spent 3 months designing and installing a Zen garden for the Sterling estate, and you haven't been paid a dime of the final installment. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor, he says. His voice is steady, but I can see his hands shaking slightly on the podium. I completed the work exactly as specified in the contract, but when I sent the final invoice, Mrs. Sterling told me the energy of the stones was discordant and refused to pay. I pause. I look at him. I look at the papers. Discordant energy? Is that a technical term in landscaping, Mr. Thorne? Because in my world, it sounds like a load of hogwash. That's what she said. Your Honor, he replies. I turn my gaze to Mrs. Sterling. She doesn't flinch. She doesn't even look at me. She's busy inspecting her manicure. Mrs. Sterling, I bark. Her head snaps up. Good. I'm talking to you. Put your hands down and look at me. This isn't a spa. It's a court of law. Did you or did you not sign a contract for this work? She sighs. A long, theatrical sound that suggests I'm wasting her precious time. My assistant might have signed something, Judge, but the man is a fraud. He promised a sanctuary of peace. Do I look peaceful to you? You look like you're looking for a fight, and you've come to the right place. I snap. I don't care about your peace. I care about the law. Did he do the work? Bird, show me the photos. Bird hands me a stack of glossies. The garden is beautiful. Intricate stonework, rare plants, a flowing stream. It's a masterpiece. I look at the before photos. It was a dirt lot. Now it's a paradise. This looks like work to me, Mrs. Sterling, I say, tossing the photos onto my desk. In fact, it looks like very expensive work. You've got Japanese maples in here that cost more than my first car. Why haven't you paid the man? She leans forward, her eyes narrowing. Because he insulted me. He had the audacity to suggest that my choice of placement for the meditation bench was ergonomically unsound. He's a servant, Judge. Servants don't tell me where to sit. I feel the heat rising in my neck. A servant? Sir, is she paying you for your expertise or your servitude? Mr. Thorne clears his throat. I was trying to explain that the bench was on a slope and needed a concrete footer. Otherwise it would tip. She told me to just do it and then complained when she almost fell off it. He's lying, Victoria Sterling screams. She doesn't just speak, she shrieks. He set me up. He wanted to see me fall. Shush, I yell, slamming my hand on the bench. Don't speak unless I ask you a question. You're not in your mansion now, Mrs. Sterling. You're in my house. And in my house, we don't scream like banshees. We use logic. If there is any left in that expensive head of yours. She looks stunned. Apparently, no one has told her to shut up in about 20 years. Her lawyer tries to intervene. Your Honor, if I may, you may not. I point a finger at him. Sit down and keep your mouth shut. You're a hat rack in this room. This is small claims. She speaks for herself. Now, Mrs. Sterling, I'm looking at your defense. You claim emotional distress caused by a tilting bench. Do you have a medical report? Did you break a bone? Did you even bruise a designer buttock? She huffs. It's the principle, Judge Judy. The man is ungrateful. My husband's company is a major donor to the city's infrastructure. We basically built this town. People like Mr. Thorne should be honored to have our name on their portfolio. Honored? I lean back, staring at her through my glasses. I've heard some arrogant things in my time, but this is top tier. Honor doesn't pay the mortgage, lady. Honor doesn't buy the stones he laid in your yard. You owe him $5,000. It's a drop in the bucket for you, and it's a life savings for him. Pay the man. I will do no such thing, she says, her voice turning cold and sharp. You don't understand how the world works, Judge. There are people who lead and people who follow. He is a follower, and you're just a public servant. I feel a smile tugging at the corners of my mouth. Not a happy smile, the kind of smile a shark gives right before it bites. A public servant? You're right. I serve the public by keeping people like you from trampling over people like him. And right now, the service I'm providing is telling you that you're losing this case. Bird, do we have the final invoice? As Bird moves toward the podium, Mrs. Sterling does something I've never seen in all my years. She doesn't just get angry. She transforms. She stands up, tall and rigid, and she walks right up to the edge of the bench, ignoring the stop line. Listen to me carefully, Judy, she says, her voice dropping to a low, dangerous hiss. The courtroom goes dead silent. Even the gallery stops breathing. My husband owns the banks that hold the city's debt. He owns the developers who build these courthouses. I don't care about $5,000. I could burn that in my fireplace to keep my feet warm. But I don't like being told no by a woman in a cheap lace collar. She leans in closer, her eyes locked on mine. I don't think you realize who you're talking to. I don't just have money. I have influence. I own the ground you're sitting on. In fact, I own you. The silence that follows is deafening. I don't blink. I don't move. I just sit there looking at this woman who has clearly lost her mind to the fumes of her own vanity. Bird takes a step forward, his hand moving toward his belt, but I raise a hand to stop him. I want this. I want every second of this. You own me? I say, my voice a whisper that carries to the back of the room. Lock, stock, and barrel. She says, a triumphant, wicked smirk spreading across her face. One phone call and your little television show is a memory. One word to the right person and you're back in a night court in the Bronx, handling traffic tickets. Now, are you going to dismiss this ridiculous claim, or do I have to make that call? I look at her for a long, long time. I look at the lawyer, who has turned a shade of gray that matches his suit. I look at Mr. Thorne, who looks like he wants to disappear into the floorboards. Then I pick up my gavel. I don't hit the block yet. I just hold it. Mrs. Sterling, I say, my voice perfectly calm, you've made a very big mistake. You see, there's one thing you can't buy, no matter how many banks your husband owns. And what's that? She sneers. The truth, I say. And the truth is, you're a bully. And I've spent my entire life punching bullies in the nose. I let the silence hang in the air for a beat too long. I want her to feel the weight of it. I want her to realize that for the first time in her pampered, bubble-wrapped life, she stepped into a ring with someone who doesn't care about her last name or the zeros in her bank account. Bird, I say, my eyes never leaving hers. Does it look like I'm owned by anyone? Bird doesn't even crack a smile, but I see the glint in his eye. Not from where I'm standing, Judge? Exactly, I snap. I look back at Victoria Sterling. She's still standing there, smirking, waiting for me to crumble. She actually thinks this is a movie where the villain wins by waving a checkbook. Sit down, Mrs. Sterling. Now, before I have Officer Bird help you find your seat in a much less comfortable room downstairs. Her lawyer finally finds his voice, though it's 2 octaves higher than it was 5 minutes ago. Your Honor, my client she's under a lot of stress. The renovations have been taxing. She didn't mean, don't tell me what she meant, I roar. She said it. She said she owns me. She said she owns the ground this court is built on. Let me be very clear with you, counselor. If your client has a receipt for my soul, she'd better produce it right now, or she'd better start writing a check to Mr. Thorne. Victoria Sterling sits, but she doesn't tuck her tail. She crosses her got cloudy. Are you high? Are you on something right now? The gallery erupts. A few people actually laugh out loud. I don't stop them. How dare you, she screams, standing up again. I am a Sterling, my husband's family. I don't care about your husband's family. I slam my gavel, whack. The sound echoes like a gunshot. If your husband's family is so powerful, why didn't they teach you how to read a contract? Why didn't they teach you that when you hire a man to do a job and he does it, you pay him? You don't pay him in energy. You pay him in U.S. currency. He insulted me, she yells back. He told me I was difficult. I look at Mr. Thorne. Did you call her difficult, sir? He looks down at his boots, then back at me. Your Honor, she asked me to move a 3-ton boulder 6 inches to the left because it was staring at her. When I told her it would require a crane and another $2,000 in labor, she told me I was spiritually bankrupt. I might have muttered that she was being difficult under my breath. Only difficult? I look at Victoria. If I were him, I would have used a much stronger word and it wouldn't have been spiritual. See, she points a manicured finger at me. You're biased. You're just like him. You hate people who have achieved more than you. I laugh. I can't help it. It's a dry, raspy laugh. Achieved more? Mrs. Sterling, you married a checkbook. That's not an achievement. That's a transaction. Mr. Thorne here built something with his hands. He created a garden out of a dirt lot. That is an achievement. What have you done today besides get your hair done and threaten a civil servant? She turns to her lawyer. Do something. Tell her who we are. The lawyer looks like he wants to crawl into a hole. He leans in and whispers something to her. She brushes him off like a fly. I don't care about the rules of court, she shouts. She reaches into her Hermes bag, which probably costs more than the $5,000 she owes, and pulls out a gold-plated cell phone. I'm calling Richard. Right now. You're finished, Judy. You're done. Bird, I say calmly. Bard moves faster than a man his size should. He's at her side in 3 seconds. Ma'am, put the phone away. Electronic devices are not permitted to be used while court is in session. Get your hands off me, she shrieks. Do you know what this suit costs? This is silk. I don't care if it's spun from the cocoons of magical worms. I say, my voice rising to match her pitch. Put the phone down, or you're going to spend the night in a cell where the only thing you'll be owning is a plastic tray of mystery meat. Do you understand me? She freezes. She looks at Bird, who is a very large man with a very heavy belt. She looks at me. She sees that I am not blinking. She sees that I am actually hoping she tries to make that call. I want her to try. I want to hold her in contempt so badly I can taste it. Slowly, she lowers the phone. Her face is a shade of purple I usually only see on eggplants. Good, I say. Now, let's talk about this emotional distress you mentioned in your countersuit. You're suing Mr. Thorne for $100,000 because you claim the bad energy of the garden caused you to lose a lucrative modeling contract for a luxury skincare line. Is that correct? She smooths her hair, trying to regain her dignity. Yes. I was so distraught by the disharmony in my backyard that I developed a breakout, a blemish, right here. She points to a spot on her cheek that is so covered in foundation it looks like a plaster wall. The agency said I was unshootable. I lost the contract. It's his fault. I pick up a magnifying glass I keep on my desk. I lean over. Bard, bring her closer. I want to see this $100,000 pimple. She recoils. Don't touch me. I'm not touching you. I'm looking at you. Move up. She begrudgingly steps forward. I peer through the glass. I don't see a blemish, Mrs. Sterling. I see a woman who is trying to scam a hard-working man out of $5,000 by using a strikeout as an excuse. Do you have a letter from this agency? Do you have a doctor's note stating that bad garden energy causes acne? It's a known fact in holistic circles, she cries. This isn't a holistic circle. This is a court of law. We deal in evidence. We deal in, did you do the work and did you pay the bill? I slam my hand down again. I've heard enough. I don't need to hear another word about your chi, your crystals, or your husband's bank account. But I haven't finished my defense, she yells. Your defense is a fairy tale, and I'm not in the mood for a bedtime story. I snap. I'm ready to rule, but first, I want to address something you said earlier. You said you own me. I stand up. I'm not a tall woman, but when I stand up on that bench, I feel 10 feet tall. I look down at her. I've been a judge in New York City. I've looked murderers in the eye. I've looked at the worst humanity has to offer. And not once has anyone had the sheer, unadulterated gall to stand in my courtroom and tell me they own me. You think your money makes you a god? You think it makes you immune to the rules that the rest of us have to follow? I pick up my pen. Well, I have news for you, Mrs. Sterling. In this room, the only thing that has power is the truth. And the truth is, you're a common thief. You stole this man's time. You stole his labor. And you tried to use your husband's shadow to scare me into helping you commit that theft. I start writing on the judgment sheet. The scratching of my pen is the only sound in the room. Victoria is vibrating with rage, her breath coming in short, ragged gasps. I am awarding the plaintiff, Mr. Thorne, the full $5,000, I announce. No, she screams. Wait, I'm not finished, I say, looking up. I am also dismissing your countersuit with prejudice. It is frivolous, it is insulting, and if I could fine you for wasting my time with it, I would. But I'm not done yet. I look at her lawyer. Counselor, you're going to have a very long talk with your client about the definition of contempt of court. Because if she says one more word, if she so much as breathes in a way that sounds like a protest, I am going to have her hauled away. You can't do this! Victoria shrieks, her voice cracking. I'll have your job. I'll buy this whole network and fire you by lunchtime. I smile. It's the shark smile again. Bird, take her. The room gasps. What? The lawyer stammers. Your Honor, please. I gave her a warning. I say, my voice is cold as a Siberian winter. She ignored it. She just threatened the court again. Bird, escort Mrs. Sterling to the holding cell. She can stay there until she cools off. Maybe the energy in the cell will help clear up her complexion. You bitch, Victoria screams as Bird grabs her arm. He doesn't hurt her, but he's firm. He's had enough of her too. You can't touch me. Richard, call Richard. Tell Richard to bring $5,000. I yell over her screams as she's led away, because she isn't leaving until that judgment is satisfied. I sit back down. I adjust my collar. My heart is pounding, but my hands are steady. I look at Mr. Thorne. He's standing there with his mouth open, looking at the door where the billionaire's wife was just dragged through. Mr. Thorne, I say. He looks at me, blinking. Yes, Your Honor? Next time I say, get the money up front. And if they start talking about energy, run the other way. Case closed. I slam the gavel. Whack! But as I watch them clear the courtroom, I know this isn't over. A woman like Victoria Sterling doesn't go quietly into a holding cell, and I have a feeling Richard is going to be more than just a name on a checkbook. I head back to my chambers, my mind already racing. I've dealt with rich bullies before, but there was something in her eyes, a level of genuine delusion that usually comes with a lot of backup. I sit down at my desk and Bird walks in a few minutes later. She's in the cell, Judge, he says, leaning against the doorframe. She's currently trying to tell the walls that they're fired. Did she get her phone call, I ask? She's making it now, Bird says. And Judge? She didn't call a lawyer. She called the mayor's office. I lean back and let out a long breath. The mayor, huh? Well, Bird, I hope the mayor likes gardening, because he's about to get a very messy earful. The phone on my desk doesn't just ring, it screams. It's the direct line from the supervising judge's office. I look at it for a second, savoring the silence of my chambers before the storm hits. I know exactly who is on the other end. Victoria Sterling's phone call didn't go to a lawyer or a florist. It went straight to the top of the food chain. I pick it up. She's in the cell, Harold. Save your breath. Judy, Harold's voice is strained, the sound of a man who has spent too many years navigating the political swamp of New York. Do you have any idea who you just put in lockup? That's Victoria Sterling. Her husband, Richard, I know exactly who he is, Harold, I interrupt, leaning back in my chair. He's the man whose wife thinks she can walk into a court of law and treat it like a private country club. She stood there in front of God and everyone and told me she owns me. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but the last time I checked, my soul was still my own property, and so is this courtroom. She's calling the mayor Judy. She's calling the commissioner. This is going to be a PR nightmare. Let them call, I say, my voice dropping to a low, cold hum. Let them all call. I'll give them the same answer I gave her. In this room, the law is the only thing that matters. Not a donor list, not a social registry, and certainly not a woman with more diamonds than sense. She stays in the cell until she apologizes to this court and pays the judgment. Case closed. I hang up before he can respond. I look at Bird, who is leaning against the doorframe, looking entirely too amused. The mayor's office is on line 2, Bird says, pointing to the blinking light. Let it blink, I say. I have a trial to finish. Bring in the next case. But before Bird can move, the heavy oak doors of the courtroom burst open. This isn't a bailiff. This isn't a clerk. This is a man who walks like he's walking onto his own private jet. He's in his late 50s, silver-haired, wearing a suit that probably costs more than the average American's house. Behind him are 3 men with briefcases. The legal cavalry has arrived. This must be Richard Sterling. I don't wait for him to speak. I walk back out onto the bench. I don't care if I'm technically in recess. If he wants a show, I'm the director. Mr. Sterling, I presume? I say, sitting down and looking at him over my glasses. The man stops at the bar. He doesn't look angry. He looks annoyed, like he's dealing with a malfunctioning toaster. Judge Shainlin, I believe there's been a misunderstanding. My wife is currently being held in a holding cell like a common criminal. Your wife is a common criminal at the moment, Mr. Sterling, I snap. She's in contempt of court. She attempted to intimidate a judge. She refused to satisfy a legal judgment. And she's currently shrieking so loud the people in the basement can hear her. So, if there's a misunderstanding, it's on your end. Richard Sterling takes a step forward. His lawyers fan out behind him. I've already had my office wire the $5,000 to the plaintiff's account. The debt is settled. Now, I'd like my wife released. Immediately. The debt is settled? Good. That's step one, I say, tapping my pen on the desk. Now let's talk about step two. The respect for this institution. Your wife told me she owns me, Mr. Sterling. She told me she could have me fired by lunchtime. Does she speak for you when she says those things? Richard Sterling sighs. He looks at me with a patronizing tilt of his head. Victoria is passionate. She's used to getting what she wants. We all are. Now, I don't want to make this unpleasant. I've already spoken to the network executives. They're very concerned about the optics of this situation. They'd like to see this resolved quietly. I feel the familiar heat rising. This is it. This is the I own you moment, just delivered with a silk tie instead of a screech. Are you threatening me, Mr. Sterling, I ask? My voice is quiet. When I'm quiet, that's when people should start running. Because it sounds like you're telling me that if I don't let your wife go, you're going to use your influence to make my life difficult. I'm saying that the world works on relationships, Judge, he says. He leans on the podium, looking me dead in the eye. And you've just damaged a very important one. My wife isn't an architect or a gardener. She's a Sterling. We don't sit in cells. We don't get schooled by TV judges. Now, release her, and we can all forget this happened. I look at him. I look at his lawyers. I look at Bird, who has moved closer to the bench, his hand resting on his belt. The air in the room is thick enough to cut with a knife. You know, Mr. Sterling, I start my voice gaining strength. I've spent a lot of time in this robe. I've seen people who have nothing, people who are one paycheck away from the street, and they still have more dignity in their pinky finger than you and your wife have in your entire estate. You think your money makes you a different species. You think the rules are for other people. I lean forward over the edge of the bench. But here's the thing about a courtroom. It's a leveling ground. When you walk through those doors, your bank balance stays outside. Your relationships stay outside. All that matters is what you did and what the law says about it. Are you finished with the lecture? Richard asks, his voice turning cold. Because my patience is wearing thin. I'm just getting started, I bark. Bird, bring Mrs. Sterling out here. I want her to see this. A few minutes later, Victoria Sterling is led out. She looks disheveled. Her hair is a mess, and her mascara is running. The moment she sees Richard, she lets out a sob. Richard, do something. She put me in a cage. There was a woman in there who asked me for my shoes. Be quiet, Victoria, Richard says, though his eyes stay locked on mine. The judge was just about to tell us how she's going to fix this. Fix this? I laugh. Oh, I'm going to fix it. Mr. Sterling, you said you paid the $5,000? That takes care of the civil suit, but the contempt charge, that's my call. And your wife's behavior since she got here has been nothing short of disgraceful. I look at Victoria. You told me you owned me. You told me you owned the ground I'm sitting on. Well, let's see how much you own when the cameras are off and the doors are locked. I turn back to Richard. You want her out? Fine. But she's going to apologize. Not to me. I don't care about your apology. You're going to apologize to Mr. Thorne, the man you tried to cheat. And then you're going to apologize to the court for the spectacle you've made. Victoria looks like she's about to faint. Apologize? To him? Richard, tell her no. Richard looks at me. I see him calculating. He's looking for the exit, the loophole, the way to win. But there isn't one. Not today. Judge, he says, his voice like gravel. You're making a very